started with the sound of dripping water. At first, Daniel thought it was the kitchen sink again, that slow, annoying drip that had kept him up half the night last week. But when he got up to check, the faucet was bone dry. The sound was coming from somewhere else. He stood in the dark for a second, rubbing his eyes. The clock read 2:13 a.m., the kind of hour when everything feels a little unreal. He followed the sound down the hall, barefoot, half asleep, trying not to wake himself up too much. The house was quiet, too quiet. He lived alone, no pets, no kids, and the only thing outside was the wind brushing against the trees. But the dripping kept going. Slow, steady. He stopped outside the bathroom door, hand hovering over the knob. When he pushed it open, the sound stopped. He flipped the light on. The tub was empty. The sink was dry, nothing out of place. He leaned on the counter, staring at himself in the mirror. He looked tired, older than he felt. Maybe he was just hearing things. He turned off the light, headed back to bed. And the moment he took a step into the hallway, it started again. Not a drip this time. More like something brushing against the inside of the wall. He pressed his ear against the wallpaper. There it was, slow movement. Not frantic, not random, just slow dragging, like something alive, or someone tracing their fingers on the other side. He pulled back quick. Mice, he muttered, though it didn't sound like any mice he'd ever heard. Still, that was the best explanation his half-awake brain could give him. He went back to bed, turned the TV on for background noise, and eventually fell asleep to the sound of static. The next morning, sunlight made everything feel less strange. He almost laughed about it, probably just pipes or wood shifting. Old house problems. But when he went to brush his teeth, he froze. There, on the tile floor, was a small wet footprint. Barefoot. Small. Like a child's. He stared at it, jaw tightening. He lived alone. He didn't even have visitors. He stood in that bathroom for a long time, the sound of his own breathing filling the silence. Finally, he wiped it up, trying to convince himself maybe he'd tracked in water somehow. He left for work, but the whole day, he couldn't stop thinking about it. That footprint, the noise, the way the sound stopped whenever he turned on the light. By the time he got home, the sun was already down, and the house felt different. Still, like it was listening. He turned on every light, checked the bathroom again. Nothing. The tiles were dry. The air smelled faintly like mildew. He leaned closer to the wall, pressing his ear against it. Nothing. That night, though, it came back. The dripping. Louder this time. He turned on the bathroom light, ready to prove to himself it was just a leaky pipe. But right before his hand hit the switch, something whispered. Soft. So soft he thought it was the wind. Just one word. Cold. He froze. The word echoed in his mind even after it stopped. He turned the light on. The bathroom was empty, quiet, still. He barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he swore he could hear water moving, like something shifting behind the walls. The next day, he called a plumber. The guy came by, flashlight in hand, crawling under the sink, checking pipes. After a while, he tapped the wall and said something that made Daniel's stomach turn. Hey, you know this used to be another bathroom, right? Looks like there's plumbing behind this wall that doesn't go anywhere. Probably sealed up years ago. Daniel frowned. Another bathroom. How would that even work? There's no door, the plumber shrugged. Not anymore. Whoever remodeled this place must have closed it off. Looks like it's still got moisture back there, though. When the plumber left, Daniel stood staring at the wall long after the sound of his truck faded. He couldn't shake the feeling that the whisper, that voice, had come from there. That night he turned all the lights off, except the one in the bathroom. sat on the edge of the tub, waiting. He stayed up like that for hours, just listening. It started again around midnight. First the drip, then the scratching, then that slow drag, like fingers. He leaned closer. "Who's there?" he whispered. Nothing. Then faintly, tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks. His chest tightened. He whispered again, "If you can hear me, knock twice." Silence. Then, knock, knock. He stumbled back, staring at the wall like it might breathe. He wanted to leave right then, just grab his keys and get out. But he couldn't move. He pressed his hand against the wall, and it felt damp. Cold. The next few nights were worse. The whispering started coming more often, clearer each time. Sometimes he heard crying. Other times, humming, like a lullaby with no words. He stopped eating, barely slept. He started drinking just to numb the nights. Every time he tried to ignore it, the house got louder, pipes banging, floors creaking, taps turning themselves on. By the 5th night, the smell of mildew was strong. The wallpaper near the wall had started to bubble. He couldn't take it anymore. He went to the hardware store, bought a small sledgehammer, came back, and stood in front of that wall. The house was dead quiet. Not even the wind. He took one deep breath and swung. The hammer hit hard, cracking through plaster and tile. Dust filled the air. He swung again, until a hole opened up. And behind it, a dark, narrow space. The beam from his flashlight caught a rusted metal edge. He leaned closer. It was an old bathtub. Half buried in debris, the surface corroded, the drain clogged with dirt. And floating in what looked like thick, muddy water was a small, yellow rubber duck. Still wet. He dropped the flashlight, stumbling back. He couldn't breathe. The duck moved, just slightly, like something underneath had shifted. That was enough. He ran out of the house, didn't even lock the door. A few days later, the landlord called him, said a section of the wall had caved in. When they tore it open, they found the old bathroom. The tub was still there, same rust, same stains, but no sign of any toy. The plumber said it looked like someone had tried to seal it off from the inside. Daniel didn't go back. He moved out within the week. He didn't take much, just what fit in his car. Months later, when he was settled somewhere new, he opened a box of his old things. Inside, wrapped in a towel, was something small and yellow. A rubber duck, still wet.